In today's video, we're going to be talking about what are good and bad fats for keto. As with any group of foods, not all fats are created equal. There are actually some types of fats that you want to be consuming more of and some less of. Because believe it or not, consuming too much of the wrong type of fat on keto can actually hinder your results. And the type of fat you want to be consuming more of might surprise you. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the different types of fat, the difference between saturated and unsaturated fat, and then the best high-fat foods you can eat for keto. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Kate. I'm a health coach and I post videos on a high-fat, nutrient-dense way of eating. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, feel free to share, and make sure to subscribe. And make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook where I share new posts every single day. Today's video is sponsored by Adapted Nutrition. For electrolyte supplements specifically formulated for the keto diet, head to healthcoachkate.com/electrolytes and use code HCK10 to save 10% off your order. So today's video is all about the best and the worst fats you can eat on keto. The keto diet is a way of eating that is low in carbohydrates, moderate in protein, and high in fat. Limiting carbs in the diet allows your body to get into a state called ketosis, where you're burning mainly fat for energy. And because fat consumption is so high on keto, you need to make sure that you're eating the right types of fat. Types of fat. Before we get into the different types of fat, let's first take a step back and talk about what fats are. Fats are made up of carbon and hydrogen. The arrangement and length of these structures determines the type of fat. Fat is important for several functions within the body. It gives us energy. We can either get energy from glucose, which is carbs, or from fat. It forms our cell membranes, our brains, and our nervous system. It helps us to transport and absorb fat-soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K. It helps us to make and balance hormones, primarily sex hormones, and it gives us two essential fatty acids, omega-6 and omega-3. As you can see, fat is a critical part of our diet. Fatty acids can be divided into two main categories, saturated fat and unsaturated fat. Saturated fat has all carbons bonded to hydrogens, whereas unsaturated fat is missing some hydrogens. Because saturated fats are straight, they can pack together more tightly and are solid at room temperature. Examples of foods with mainly saturated fat that are good for keto are butter, coconut, and dark chocolate, which are all solid at room temperature. Unsaturated fats are slightly bent, meaning they cannot bind together as tightly, and they will be liquid at room temperature. Examples of foods high in unsaturated fat good for keto are olives, avocados, and eggs. Most foods are made up of some combination of saturated and unsaturated fat. Butter, for example, is 66% saturated fat and 34% unsaturated. Now, unsaturated fat can be broken down further into two categories, monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Monounsaturated fat has only one carbon missing a hydrogen bond, and polyunsaturated fat has more than 4. And here is why this is important. The more missing hydrogens, the more fragile the fat is. And the more fragile it is, the more likely it is to oxidize when exposed to heat, light, and oxygen. Oxidized fats are extremely harmful to the body. When we consume them, they cause free radical damage and oxidative stress. In layman's terms, you have a whole bunch of dangerous particles set loose in your body. They start damaging your DNA, your fatty tissues, and your proteins. Oxidative stress can cause heart disease, hypertension, hardening of the arteries, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and also aging. You can also be exposed to free radicals through cigarette smoke, pollution, and radiation. Everyone knows just how bad these things are for the body, but consuming oxidized fat can also cause free radical damage. As I said before, monounsaturated fat is only missing one bond, whereas polyunsaturated fat is missing 4. This means that polyunsaturated fats are the most susceptible to oxidation. This isn't a huge concern when you are getting polyunsaturated fats from foods such as salmon and nuts. However, when you are cooking with oils high in polyunsaturated fat, this can be a big problem. These fats are so fragile. They should never be heated. But unfortunately, a lot of oils that are high in polyunsaturated fat are often recommended for cooking. Soybean, corn, grapeseed oil. These oils may have a high smoke point, but that is not the same as the point at which the oil oxidizes. As we already discussed, these types of fats are super fragile and shouldn't be heated at all. Oils high in polyunsaturated fat should never be used for cooking, but foods high in polyunsaturated fat can be consumed in modest amounts. I'm sure you've heard of omega-3 and omega-6 before, and these are both types of polyunsaturated fat. Omega-3 is widely seen as anti-inflammatory and omega-6 as inflammatory. Both are essential, but most people are consuming way too much omega-6, which works against omega-3 and causes inflammation. A lot of nuts are really high in omega-6, and this can be an issue because nuts are often seen as a keto staple. Almond flour is commonly used to make keto bread and other low-carb baked goods. But because almonds are so high in omega-6, this can cause issues for some people. Yes, nuts and seeds are fine to consume on keto, but just be mindful of how many of them you are consuming and how you are feeling and whether or not you are actually progressing towards your goals. If you are feeling inflamed or you're not losing weight, it could be due to the high amount of omega-6 in your diet. Some examples of foods high in polyunsaturated fat that are good for keto are salmon, oysters, and walnuts. Saturated fat. There are several claims made about saturated fat that all of us have had drilled into our heads. Saturated fat causes heart disease. Saturated fat causes diabetes. Saturated fat clogs your arteries. None of these claims are actually true. The thinking behind the claim that it hardens our arteries is because saturated fat goes solid at room temperature. It is assumed that it will do the same thing in our arteries. However, this is just a theory and has never been shown to actually happen within the body. Now, there's also some weak evidence from epidemiology studies that high amounts of saturated fat in the diet is linked to heart disease. But these are studies that look at large groups of people and try to draw connections between their habits and health outcomes. The problem is that these types of studies cannot draw conclusions because there are so many variables. The way they gather data is from food frequency questionnaires that rely on self-reporting. The problem with food frequency questionnaires is that people can't remember what they ate every day, let alone calculate averages. These studies do not prove that saturated fat causes heart disease. They show that people who have heart disease also consume a lot of saturated fat, but they probably also consume a lot of refined carbohydrates, they are more likely to smoke, and they are more likely to exercise less. So how can you pinpoint saturated fat as the cause? Saturated fat is actually good for us. It is essential for energy. It is essential for our hormones and the tissues in our body it makes up. It is the best type of fat to use when cooking because it can withstand high heats. It raises HDL in the body, which is a protective form of cholesterol. Now, there is one type of saturated fat that has been shown to be particularly beneficial for weight loss. But before I talk about that, I wanted to tell you a bit more about today's sponsor, Adapted Nutrition. Electrolytes are very important on any version of a low-carb diet, including keto. When you are eating less carbohydrates, your body retains less water and also less electrolytes. Electrolytes are important for regulating nerve and muscle function, balancing blood pressure, regulating heart conditions, maintaining fluid balance, and more. Especially when you are first starting keto, it is critical to make sure your electrolytes are in check. Adapted Nutrition is committed to providing simple, science-based hydration products from natural sea minerals. A lot of electrolyte supplements on the market do not even contain a significant amount of electrolytes and are filled with sugar, fillers, and artificial ingredients, all of which are unnecessary and sometimes harmful. Adapted Nutrition's Keto K1000 electrolyte powder was specifically formulated for the keto diet. It will not break a fast, and it will not kick you out of ketosis. If you want to check out Adapted Nutrition, you can head to healthcoachkate.com/electrolytes and use code HCK10 to save 10% off your order. Thank you again to Adapted Nutrition for sponsoring this video. The type of saturated fat that I wanted to highlight today is stearic acid. Stearic acid is a type of saturated fat that has been highly associated with fat loss, and not just fat loss, but visceral fat loss specifically. Stearic acid is found in the fat of meat, animal fat used for cooking, such as tallow, and butter, and is also in some fatty plant foods, such as cacao butter. In one study done on mice, where the mice were fed a diet enriched with either stearic acid, which is saturated fat, linoleic acid, which is polyunsaturated fat, or oleic acid, which is monounsaturated fat, they didn't see much difference in the total body weight between groups at the end of the study. However, the stearic acid group saw a 70% reduction in visceral fat and an increase in lean body mass when compared to the other groups. This study is of course just done on mice, but it is still really interesting nonetheless. Swapping out your cooking oil for one that is high in stearic acid, such as tallow or butter, can help you to boost your stearic acid intake. So in summary, saturated fat is good and you should consume a lot of it. Monounsaturated fat is also good and can be consumed in large quantities. But when it comes to polyunsaturated fat, try to stay away from oils high in it and focus more on whole food sources, specifically those higher in omega-3 than omega-6. Anyways guys, that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comment section down below what your favorite high-fat keto food is. I try to respond to every comment that is made within the first day, the best that I can, so I'll talk to you guys more there. And remember to check out Adapted Nutrition for all of your electrolyte needs. I will put their link in the description box down below. And if you guys did enjoy this video, you might also enjoy my New to Keto series, which I will link right here. If you want to check out my most recent upload, you can find it here. And if you want to check out my keto diet and carnivore diet coaching programs, you can find them here. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.